in my team, I had 4 Shire horses. Amazing. Just Shire horses on site.
In your team, you had 4 horses?
Yes. Because we are an ageing population, there is such a large amount of the population that still will use cash. So going through COVID, a really difficult time for people who still rely on cash. With all marketing, as I said before, it's about understanding, what that customer needs. How do we do things that really help the customer, the member? But I think it's not forgetting some of the things that, actually do still make a difference to people.
Welcome back to Embracing Marketing Mistakes, the podcast where we help you smash revenue targets by asking the world's best marketeurs to reveal their biggest mistakes and what they've learned from them. I'm your host, Chris Norton, and today I'm excited to introduce Nikki Dixon, Asda marketing veteran turned Director of Brand and Marketing at Leeds Building Society. Nikki's 20-year career has spanned retail, hospitality, and now finance, from delivering groundbreaking initiatives like Asda's Plastic Unwrapped Manifesto, a redefining rebrand for Daniel Thwaites, to launching Leeds Building Society's first ever strapline as part of its biggest brand campaign in nearly 150 years. In this episode, we take a look at Nikki's incredible career journey and what it's like to work for one of the long-standing heritage brands in Yorkshire. We also ask her about her key advice for marketeurs and how to successfully market across several different industries. So, as always, sit back, relax, and let's learn about what you need to build a brand's trust. Nikki Dixon, welcome to the show. So, you've had quite a varied career. So you got a degree, and so you're a lot of people that get into marketing don't do degrees in marketing, and you did something. Was your degree in retail management?
It was.
Why was
yes.
that? Why did you do that?
Well, there's a bit of a story behind this.
Okay.
So when I was a lot younger, I got a job at Boots the Chemist. Okay. And a Saturday job. And the bit that I really loved was we're helping in the pharmacy. So I used to help. I mean, this was in the days when actually, probably, I shouldn't say it, but from a regulation point of view, so Saturday assistants could assist the pharmacist, as long as obviously it was all then signed off by the pharmacist. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I thought that's what I wanted to be. I want to be a pharmacist. I then decided to take maths, chemistry, physics, and biology at A-level.
Wow.
To become a pharmacist.
Physics at A-level?
Yes.
Right, you've gone up in my estimations. I mean, that's amazing. Physics, I couldn't have done physics.
I'm probably about to come down in your estimation.
Okay.
Because they were my weakest subjects at GCSE. But I thought, do you know what, that's fine, I can do it. So 6 months into my A-levels, I thought, do you know what, I've tried this really hard. And it was when I did a physics paper that was a written paper that I got my highest grade that I thought, do you know what, that's because it's written, it's not about the science, it's about the writing. Okay. I think I might have made the wrong decision about my career. So when I thought about it, I thought, do you know what, yeah, I've really enjoyed the pharmacy bit in terms of helping, but actually it's the retail side. I really loved being in the store, the buzz of the environment. So I decided, do you know what? I'm going to take 6 months out and I am going to go back, and I changed my A-levels and then went and did retail management.
But what A-levels did you do then if you didn't do physics?
So I kept chemistry.
Okay.
Because actually that was really fun, because that's the bit where you get Bunsen burners and chemicals and reactions. And I ended up doing then general studies, geography, business studies, and chemistry.
And then into uni to do retail management?
Yes.
Because I always think that retail management, you'd be like working with, which leads nicely into where you did go. But like I worked at Asda when I was at university as a side, and a lot of the people that did retail management would become store managers and stuff, and Asda had a path, Asda Sainsbury's and things like that. Did you find that a lot of people on your degree were doing with that route, and is that why you ended up at Asda?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because most of my friends didn't then go out and work in retail. Okay. So they went and worked for some of the big brands. I mean, a couple did, because when I graduated, Aldi had come to the UK And, it was a really interesting time doing retail because it was when Aldi had arrived, Lidl had arrived, and it was I remember doing my dissertation on discounters because actually then it was quite a big thing because people hadn't really heard of these stores and they were coming in and really disrupting. So a couple of people did go and work for Aldi, but I actually, following uni, we started a business and that was probably my first introduction into marketing because fresh out of uni, I was the communications director for
great title straight off the bat.
I was like, look at me. We started a business called Smart Students because also whilst I was at uni, and I'm really showing my age here, the World Wide Web was created and became a thing. So it was that time when people were creating websites.
Yeah, I remember.
And we did the whole thing on helping students at university. And I mean, it was really good. So we had representatives. It was all down south because I was at university in Surrey. And we'd won a business case at uni as part of our final module. So we'd won a bit of funding. So we said, right, we're going to do it. And it was brilliant and it was such a learning. But it was really, really hard because I was still living in Leeds.
Straight after uni, I wouldn't have had a clue how to run a business.
I don't think we really did.
I still don't.
Well, I think, it was, we did loads and we got it all set up and it was fantastic. But I think we had this whole dream that actually we were going to sell for millions. That was us and sort it. So we stopped the business. And that was when I thought, oh my God, I've got so much debt from uni. Because also we hadn't got much money in this business and I was traveling and all of this. So I actually went to a recruiter to get a job in marketing and they offered me a job in recruitment.
Right.
So I was then recruiting for marketeers, learning more about marketing because it was building on from my degree because marketing, was an element of my degree. But that's what led me to Asda because I actually was recruiting for a business called Gratapalm. They're an
agency, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now Creative Race. And they had the Asda account. So recruitment wasn't for me. I decided that.
You didn't do that thing where you're going, I'm recruiting for this position, but actually I've got a very good CV here from this person. Did you do that? Oh, right, okay.
What I did do, I just felt I was really brave and I just sent my CV to them and got a job, which was brilliant at what we call Grats.
So you got the job at Gratapalm, not at Asda?
No. So yes. So I was
thinking you had to fill in that Asda because I filled it in the Asda questionnaire and it was about 8-9 pages. It took ages to fill in.
Well, I did that and they rejected me the first time.
It took me ages.
Yeah.
Honestly, the application forms to get jobs, like in those proper, it's a job within itself, that, isn't it? Rather than just sending your CV on these days, clicking on a LinkedIn apply or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I sent my CV to Gratapalm just on the off chance and then got a job with them on the Asda account. And it was a couple of years later that I then moved across to Asda. So, that was my whole, like when you think there's a bit of at the time it felt really hard because recruitment wasn't for me. It's just not me at all. And that felt really hard because we'd gone through the business piece, straight out of uni into a business. It was a real whirlwind. And then I need a job, get a job. It's not the right job. What am I going to do? Let's try, sent my CV, and it's like that then started my whole career Asda in marketing.
Training. So it was the Asda in-house training then. Was it good?
Amazing. I mean, going across to Asda, I often talk to people about, I grew up in Asda. Mm-hmm. It was,
you were there 16 years, weren't you?
Yeah.
Fair play to you.
I really grew up in Asda.
That's a great employee for them, I think.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And I think what was fantastic was the variety of stuff that I got to do. But the own brand stuff was where I really, that's where I absolutely found this passion for brand. Mm-hmm. But it's just, if you talk to people who have worked at Asda, there's a real thing.
Brand affinity.
There is. Yeah, we used to say, and it sounds really sad, but it's like cut you open and you're green inside because you were absolutely like loyal to the brand.
Yeah.
And it was just the way that we operated, behaviours, you know, the things that we used to do. It was such a great place to be. And going out into the big wide world after Asda, that was scary.
I mean, where Sinead and I are sat now, the big wide world of you going from Asda. Literally, you could throw a stone to Asda house from here and to where you are now. So you literally went about 100 yards. Is that fair?
Well,
across the river.
Yeah.
In between.
Did you swim?
I should have done. In between, though, the big wide world.
Yeah.
I went to Blackburn.
Where?
Blackburn.
Blackburn?
Yeah.
What took you there?
So that's when I went from retail to hospitality.
Okay. Oh, for Thwaites?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So actually, it was, well, I left Asda with nothing to go to. Mm-hmm.
And actually, my question I've got here is, tell us about the change between roles. From Asda to Thwaites. Look at that. You done it. I didn't even have to ask the question.
I know.
You dovetailed brilliantly.
So, yeah, I left Asda and then I was told about the role at Daniel Thwaites.
Yeah.
And I thought, so they're in the Ribble Valley, which is, they used to be Blackburn Centre and then moved to the Ribble Valley, which is in Lancashire. Yorkshire lass, going to Lancashire. How on earth would that work? But actually, I had a couple of conversations and then went to meet them and just fell in love with the place. Such a fantastic place to be, but hard because I was away. So
you moved to live in Blackburn?
No. So I then, because I've got two little girls, but made the decision, this was pre-COVID.
Okay.
Made the decision, do you know what, this is going to be a fantastic career move for me. And what's really important to me is that I really feel that a business aligns to my values. Mm-hmm. You know, it's for me, and that's something I've learned through my career. It's great. You know, I understand why people move, but I think you've got to be really clear on why you're going to move to a place. Because you spend too long at work to be somewhere that actually you're not going to enjoy, or you know, it's not going to align with who you are personally. And Thwaites really fit with that. But yeah, I stayed living in Leeds, but ended up being away quite a lot.
Were you in the office 5 days a week then, if it was pre-COVID? No.
So I tended to be in 3 days a week, but because it's hospitality, I got to stay in the most beautiful places.
They didn't put you up in the hotels?
Yeah.
All the different ones?
So where
they looked very nice. We were having a look.
We were having before this call, before this chat. Like,
so, yeah.
Pubs and hotels, isn't it?
Yes, and a brewery.
How many hotels have they got?
So they have got about 24 hotels and inns. And then they had around 250 pubs.
Wow.
Well, okay. Wow, that's quite a big group.
Yeah, a brewery. In my team, I had 4 Shire horses. Amazing. Just Shire horses on site.
In your team, you had 4 horses?
Yes.
And what did
3
they do?
horsemen. So because the brewery dated back to 1807, and then it was all horsepower. So they'd still got beautiful carts that they used to transport beer.
Wow.
So part of tradition for their company, 4 horses, and we used to use them for promotions.
Wow.
They'd go out, they support the pubs, like they're on site. So you could just go and, I mean, I love horses anyway.
You do eventing, don't you?
Yeah, well, I volunteer to watch people event.
Yeah.
Don't do it myself now. But yeah, it was fantastic. But I think the really interesting thing was going from such a massive corporate, because when I was at Asda, it was Walmart owned.
Yeah.
Going from that, one of the world's largest businesses, to a family owned business.
Were you there when that happened?
With Walmart?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So So that was a big...
Because Archie Norman was there. He was the CEO, and then the guy that's just gone back, is it Alan Layton that's just gone back?
Yeah, which is really interesting.
Because Asda, for those of you, you're right, if you cut people down the middle, those of you that work there, when I worked there, I mean, I was only working there part-time, and we had extensive training. Like every week there would be different types of training, and you felt like you were part of a team. You had team huddles and everything. It was quite good with all that. But I don't know what it's like today, and the fact that it's owned by a family compared to... Because Walmart's a massive, the biggest in the world, isn't it, pretty much? And now that it's owned by a small... well, not a small family, but it's family-owned, and they've brought back Alan Layton. It'll be interesting to see if they can get that magic back. Because do you think... I mean, I don't want to say it too loudly because they're only over the way, but do you think it's lost a bit of its magic and it's on its way back? Is that fair?
Yeah, I think... I mean, I've still got really good friends here at Asda. I think they can get it back.
Oh, I do as well.
Yeah, I think they have lost their way. Thinking about some of the things that were always really true to Asda are things that they'd moved away from. But I think to really understand what is their place in the market, and focus on that is where they need to be. And they're bringing more people back. So people who were there when I was there, it's interesting looking at who's going back. I think they'll definitely get there. It will take a while. But Alan Layton, he was there before I was there. But the way that people talked about him, it was always about, that era.
Yeah.
Because it absolutely did the right thing.
Yeah, it was all the TV campaigns, and I'm not going to do the
pocket tap.
Yeah, the pocket tap, and then it was Smart Price, and then I remember the first wobble they had because it was Smart Price. It was like, and they used to do that, and it was all about saving money. And then there was like a campaign, and they changed it, and they tried to compete with, and this one you might remember this. They tried to compete with obviously food and drink with M&S. They tried to go a bit more premium. So the advertising campaign, it's got to be, wasn't it?
Oh, you've got a good memory.
And so they changed the strategy, and again they had a bit of a wobble there. And I think that's kind of where we are again now. I think it's a great brand, and it's lost its way a little bit, but it's a great Leeds brand. And that's why you're here. You Leeds Building Society today, and that they're a great brand. You've worked for the two best Leeds brand, other than Prohibition PR.
Well, yes, of course.
Everything.
Yeah, it's I think there's some working for Leeds brands. I feel really proud. I'll always feel proud about working for Asda. I think what's really hard is how there's been so much press recently. But I think if you go back to the fact that they are a really strong Leeds brand, they've lost their way a bit, but they're going to get it back. And I think, for me, it's all about focus. It's all about the team. It's about working together. It's about identifying. And when I talk about focus, what place, what can they do? Where can they be within the market? Because with everything, it's so competitive. And I think that's the problem when you look at retail, particularly, that kind of retail, with the likes of the discounters. It is a really hard place to be because they are so strong on quality, but so strong on price. So it's where can Asda find that position? But ultimately, it goes back to what do people want? We always used to talk about it in terms of what do people want, need and desire? Because there's the basic needs of people, but then over and above that, what can you offer to people?
I tell you what I do want. I'm sick of the automated checkouts.
Are you?
It pissed me off. Any shop now, you can't even buy a book without doing an automated checkout. Why? And then, the weird thing is, they've got like 3 of them, and then there's someone who's been paid, who'd normally have been on the checkout, just stood around on their phone.
That is
You're like, you're not even saving money. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's 1 in 3, I suppose, but I just think, I think the personal touch, and I get that we've got to save money. There's AI, there's all these things that is moving into retail, but I think retail, there's also the personal touch. There's also, places like Asda and your local deli or your local co-op or whatever.
Yeah.
like you see the older people, which I'm one now, but talking to the staff because that's probably the only people they see.
Yeah.
Just doing the automated thing and coming out, you're doing their job, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's something with Leeds Building Society, the branches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that could be, the members that we've got, the older members, like you say, in terms of going into an Asda store, they go into a branch, that might be the only interaction that they have.
Yeah.
And I think this is where, in a world that is moving so quick, I think some people are too quick to go down that AI route. Thinking about everybody, the younger generations coming up, there's so many people who still absolutely value that interaction, the personal touch, all of that kind of stuff. I think that's what, from a marketing point of view, we can't lose sight of.
No, but that's what the supermarkets do well. Data. Usually they know their customer. They know what the average basket size is. They know why they're coming in. They know the key products that they're buying. They know that if they don't stock bananas, that people aren't going to come into the local convenience store. Stuff like that fascinates me. That's what retail is brilliant at. So,
it is.
Yeah, but you're right. It's really competitive.
Some of the supermarkets, they identify the person in their area that's bought the most of one item over a period of time.
Really?
I love that they do that. They did it. So one of my friends' mums was like,
imagine if it's something embarrassing.
it was like prosciutto ham or something. She'd bought the most of it in a certain region, so they sent her loads of free ham.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's such a personal touch, and it's that like
data.
It comes onto the community element. I guess you've always sort of worked for brands where community has been at the heart of them, which is, I guess, a really nice thing to have in your career.
Yeah, it is. And it's really important. And I think it's interesting how people think about community. I mean, at Asda, they had the community champions. And they were people in stores who literally worked with their local community. And it was... anything from raffle prizes, so people would come in and want a raffle prize to raise money, through to going out and helping, or supporting home shopping, where amazing stories where people couldn't get out but they really needed their medicine from the pharmacy, and the community champion would go out and do that. And I think that's where, going back to that whole thing around the human side is so important, and it's great to work for businesses where community does play a big part in that. So charity, and we do a lot at Leeds Building Society. So I am the forum sponsor for LGBTQ+. And it's amazing through just that forum what we do in the local community, whether it be with Leeds Pride, or we do things like we help condom packing, which actually is loads of fun because we're literally, packing bags. But it's a great one because you're together with the team. And it's things like that I think sometimes you can underestimate the difference that it can make. Whereas when we do things like that and volunteer, so recently my team went out to help in the Yorkshire Dales, and we were propagating and getting seedlings ready to plant trees.
That's
and
cool.
Stuff like that, where you wouldn't necessarily think of it as part of a day job, but it's so important that we can go out and do that volunteering.
So Leeds Building Society, is there something else called the Leeds and Holbeck?
We used to be.
Am I right, or am I going crazy?
So that is, well, it's really interesting because we were talking about that only this morning, because Leeds Building Society is 150 years old this year.
Hence the campaign recently.
Yes, the campaign. And this year we're very much thinking about 150. So all things with that kind of a theme. But it used to be Leeds and Holbeck. And it changed. It evolved into Leeds Building Society.
So it was the same. It was the blue branding, and it was same. I remember it specifically from when I was a child.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was two different building societies, but I thought
I'd never heard of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Yes, I think you're a bit younger then.
Yeah, thanks. We'll edit that one.
I was gonna say me. I was gonna say me, but then I was like,
it makes me feel old. So how many branches have you got? Because if you look at my sister worked for HSBC. She was a bank manager for one of the HSBCs, and obviously the branches. You look at in any town, whether it's a bank or a building society, they were the cornerstone of like you're talking of community.
Yeah.
And now, like I'm from a little town, pretty town called Knaresborough in away from here, and we had probably 8 banks in the town. I think there's 1 left.
Yeah.
I think and they're all just self-service. Again, back to the automation, no personal touch. I'm not saying there is. There probably is a couple of still open. My point is that the retail banks have seen, profits. They want to. I get it. They've got to save money and stuff like that. And 90% of people, or a high level of people, do things on mobile banking now, don't they?
Yeah.
So how are we getting around? How are you guys getting around that issue that people are moving on to mobile, but then the personal touch is actually one of the things that takes you away from the big corporate banks, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we've just opened a new branch in Solihull, which opened just before Christmas. And we are investing in our branches because it's so important. I mean, obviously it's about understanding the channels. So, using the channels in the right way, but the right way for our member. So with Leeds Building Society, because we're a mutual, so we're owned by members. And it's
does that mean if you put £1 in, you are a member now?
Yes.
Just so I understand that. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that what a mutual is?
Yes.
Because we used to work for Skipton Building Society. And that's how, it was £1 in, you're a member, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all about mutuality. So we don't have shareholders. If you are a member of our society, you have a say basically in how we run our business. So we still have our annual AGM and we invite all members to come to that. We hold that in Leeds. But it's about, going back to the channel piece, we've got to operate the business in the right way for our members. And that is obviously utilising the channels that we've got. So online is, it's massive. It's where people are heading. The digital world, people want everything now. People want to be able to do stuff on their phones, when they choose to do it. But for us, the branches are a hugely important part of how we run our business. And that is where, and that's why we are investing in our branches and hence why we've just opened another one. So we have over 50 now and they're nationwide. So whilst we're Leeds, we've got branches all over the country.
You got one in Manchester then?
Yes.
Do people not go, I'm not going in there, it's from Leeds?
Well, no. And it's really interesting because people, and this is where I think marketing comes in, and this is what I find fascinating, really learning and understanding about our members. And when I talk about members, so we've also got customers because we work with brokers, because Leeds is a really simple model. So we have savings accounts and we do mortgages accounts. So we work with brokers from a mortgage point of view, as well as direct members. And then our members are very much, the heartland from when it comes to a savings point of view. The value that we can add in terms of members coming into the branches is huge. And it's not, and I'm not talking about value in terms of people coming in and depositing their savings with us. I'm talking more broad than that. Because actually it's the value that the member gets. Because going back to early when we're talking about, people going into retail and it might be the only attraction they have. We've got such strong relationships between our members and our branches. And we have people who will come in, week in, week out, and they've built that relationship. And also going back to when we were talking about, the fact that things have gone digitally and, you can't go and there's no banks really where you live now, people still rely really heavily on cash. And that's the thing that when branches are closing, people can't go in.
Really?
Yeah.
In 2025?
Yeah. It's still, so there's this whole thing around actually everybody just, transacts on their phone.
Yeah.
They don't. And this is where I think because we are an ageing population, there is such a large amount of the population that still will use cash. So going through COVID, a really difficult time for people who still rely on cash. People have obviously had to adapt because there's so many places now that don't deal with cash. But this is where it's so important that we are there and we show up where our members need us. And that is really important. And whether that's a conversation, for them going in and having a conversation face-to-face in branch, or whether that's because actually they're taking out the cash that they need weekly, that's where, the branches are so important for us.
Mm-hmm. That must be, like now when you say there must be a huge part of the population that still do rely on cash, and it must be so difficult for them when they go to places and there isn't the option, because so many places now say
card only.
Card only.
Yeah.
So that means that they then have to go to the building societies to take the cash out.
Yes.
Well, I guess, what would you do? Some of them must just.
I don't know what they do, because I don't actually carry cash anymore.
No.
Ever.
I don't.
I'm lost when I go somewhere and they need cash. I'm like, we've just been on holiday to Cape Verde over Christmas, over Boxing Day, Christmas, and we got on this trip, and the guy, my wife, saw this little stall, and she bought this thing, and she obviously paid that much in euros for whatever it was that she didn't have the money on him. And the guy said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll follow you," and followed her all around this. We're on a tour, by the way, all the way on this tour, and then. We pulled up in the city, and he said, "Oh, and you can go to the cash machine and I'll get the money off you." Okay. So she thought that'd be quite relatively straightforward. She got there, and it was obviously bank holiday because it's Christmas.
Oh,
Christmas break. There was a massive queue. So she was stood in this queue with all these locals, right? And they were all really stressed out because apparently the cash machines had run out of money a couple of days before. And she
what
just
was
said,
she buying?
She said, "What the hell am I doing in the middle of a foreign
it was
country
worth it.
in a queue?" Because she never uses cash, but this guy would, because most people, I always think that with because in Leeds, you'll know this, there's quite a lot of homelessness, I see.
Yeah,
it's really sad, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is.
I never have any change on me.
No, I don't.
And like, change for them and change for buskers and, I just don't carry money anymore.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
they're going to have one of them little card machines, which just seems sort of counterproductive, doesn't it?
I guess you just then, hopefully people would buy them sandwiches
food after
hot drinks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then that's more time out of people's day, isn't it? So it's probably they're actually getting much less from it.
What sort of percentage is cash and card then for you guys? Do you know, roughly? You don't have to know exact numbers. We're not going to Google it.
I don't know. That's a very good question. I'm going to go and find out.
Find out for us. We'll put it in the show notes.
I think, for me, like I was saying beforehand that, sorry to bring up being younger again.
She does this all the time to me.
I actually do. I think for me, I didn't really ever fully understand the difference between like a building society and a bank until it came to buying a house. I think that was the first time I'd ever actually gone into a branch and was like, oh, it's a different experience when you go in, I think, and the people that you meet in branch and the attention that you get from them was so much more. They were much more friendly, much more attentive, whereas you can go into a bank now and you're just expected to go over to the machine and do it all for yourself. It's quite, there might be maybe one person, but if it's a busy bank, you're not going to get any attention.
No.
In a building society, it was like you were greeted straight away by someone and they actually helped you, which was like a weird experience for me because I hadn't really done that before.
No, it is. Yeah, it is really different. I used to save with Leeds Building Society as a child, and I've got really happy memories of going to Wetherby, near to Knaresborough, with my mum, with my deposit book, and we still have the books. It's the pass book, and people really love those pass books.
When they get like the computer, and you can see how much you've taken.
Yeah,
these guys will have
no.
Millennial and Gen Z, they're not going to have a clue what we're talking about.
So you actually get. I mean, it's so sweet. It's a little book, and that is your pass book. And when you go into a branch, so you could go in with cash. I mean, cash is even like, I'm talking about it now, it sounds really weird. So you go in. So you go in and say you've got £100, you hand your passbook over and they deposit it, and it gets stamped in your book.
Yeah.
And so each time you go in, or if you take money out, it will go as a minus, and then you've got your balance, but it's a physical book. And it's amazing because that sounds really alien in these days. People absolutely love the passbook. And I remember going in as a child and loving it because, I mean, I'd take £1 in, but it was still £1.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you could go and deposit it. And it's like, it's all stuff like that, again, I think, you know, obviously we've got to move with the times, and we are moving with the times, and digital's really important for us. And with all marketing, as I said before, it's about understanding, you know, what that customer needs. How do we do things that really help the customer, the member? But I think it's not forgetting some of the things that, you know, actually do still make a difference to people. And it doesn't all have to be about this digital world.
No.
It doesn't have to be one or the other.
No, it's about that blend.
It's very analog, that little book, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get your print out with your number on it, and then you can see whether your money going up. I've thought about this, right? Because when I was a kid, I used to go in and you'd put your savings, you'd take your cash in, you'd put your savings in your building society. I can't remember. I was with Halifax. Before that was a bank.
Yeah.
And a couple of others, I think. At NatWest, I had savings in. Used to save the money, and then you'd get the different pigs. When if you put 50 £50 in, you had a little pig. And then, you know, like
they gave
pig,
you a pig.
A pig, an actual pig bank.
Oh, okay.
But there were different pigs in a family, and you had to collect the set.
Okay.
And so if you had more savings,
that's fun.
It was quite fun.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the hell I'm talking about. So I just remember that was quite interesting when I was a child. Oh, I know what point I was going to make. I was thinking that when you're a kid, you put like little savings in these accounts. Yeah. And then I swear down those books get lost. And there must be, I hate to think how many billions are in the banks and the building societies of people that have got like £3.97 still in an account. It's probably
loads of
somewhere.
money when you actually
look. That's sat in an account because they've totally forgotten where the book is or what the number is and what it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It'd actually be interesting to find out. I bet, like in throughout the nation, how much money is in.
That's a great PR campaign. There.
Yeah,
should do that.
Find out all the
take it out and you'll be gutted.
all the lost savings in the UK.
I want to talk about your campaign then. So because it was your biggest. Prolific North have dubbed it the biggest campaign that you've done in 150 years, and it was called "It's Better to Belong," right?
Yeah,
correct. We watched Sinead and I watched the YouTube video earlier about it, and I think I remember seeing it as well. Do you just want to explain what was the thinking behind the campaign and what it's done and what you've seen from it? Because it was your biggest campaign.
Yeah, it's still early days, but it's been fantastic to work on. I think because Leeds we've never had a brand platform before. So it was a really good one to work through. But obviously with any brand, it's really important that you understand who you are. And I think that's the thing that Leeds, and when I say Leeds, I'm talking about Leeds Building Society. Leeds Building Society hadn't quite got to that place of really understanding, who they are. What do we stand for? What's our brand about? So we started on this journey, and what's been great throughout all of this is really that learning and understanding. Really, getting to the heart of what is Leeds Building Society all about? What's our place in the market? Because there's so many building societies, there's so many banks. The financial sector is huge. It's also really important, and I think that's the bit that I hadn't really thought through. So moving from retail to hospitality, I have to say, when I first heard about the job at Leeds Building Society, I actually thought,
finance.
Yeah.
You thought, finance. I've worked in retail, I've worked in hospitality. That sounds a bit dry.
I did. Because I thought, do you know what? Right now, I'm working for a hospitality business. I've got a great team, horses in my team. I get to stay at beautiful places.
How do you beat that?
Yeah. And I really thought, and then going to finance, because all I thought about was dinosaurs. It's grey. When people talk about building societies, and particularly for the younger audience in the room, like you said, your perception and...
all I can think of is, I'm looking for a guy in finance. That's that TikTok song. That's all the young thinking about finance.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, it's a bit boring.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. And so I think...
It isn't actually that boring though, is it, when you get into the sector?
No. And that's the bit that really got me. Mm-hmm. So as soon as and it's very much like when I was talking about going to Thwaites, the whole, I felt it as soon as I got there. I thought, you know what, this is a great place. I really want to work here. When I had the conversations about the role at Leeds, it was the same thing. As soon as I was talking to them, I was thinking, yes, it's a different industry, but actually this is really exciting. There's so much stuff that can be done. And I think that's what's been really interesting working on the whole brand piece and getting us to a place of understanding what Leeds Building Society is all about. Because it's not about the boring side. Finance affects every single person. You can't get away from it. So hospitality, you can choose whether you go on a really nice spa weekend away. You can't choose in life whether you need money or not. And, going back to homeless people and stuff, it's so hard because finance has such an important part to play in everybody's life. Right from, when you first start to learn about, my kids are 7 and my girls are 7 and 10. And we're starting to really educate them on finance. You can't get away from it. But I think working on the whole Leeds Building Society, it was trying to understand where can Leeds Building Society show up in the world of finance? What is it that we do that's really, really good? What are the things that we need to learn more about? How do we interact with our members? Because as I said, we are member owned. What really resonates with our members? And we started on this journey of really learning and understanding that. And I spent time on calls, absolutely getting to the heart of what is it that we do in our, and how do we have an effect on our members' lives? And that sounds really, profound, but actually, when you're talking to members who are, facing financial difficulties, when you're talking to members who are really wanting to get on the housing ladder, it's major life events for them. And we play quite a key part in that, because if somebody's been saving with us and then, we're helping them to buy their first home, or, somebody's facing financial difficulty and they're finding it hard to fund their mortgage, what is it that we do? And that's where it really resonated with me. And I just found it an amazing journey to be on in terms of understanding how we help our members and how we are part of that community. And that's very much, we started thinking about, how do we were talking about we're in their corner. What are the things that we do where other banks might turn around because this is their T's and C's and they can't help the member out in that situation. We do loads to really help and to really face into what is it. Members are they're not shareholders. They are people who actually own our business. So it's really important that we do the right thing for them. And that's where we came to the whole thing of it's better to belong. How we show up in their community, what we do that goes above and beyond just the fact that they come in and, deposit savings with us or have the mortgage. And that's where, when you get to that place, it's right because you can align it across the business. So it's not a case of then getting to a brand where you sort of think, how do we force fit this? It's about you've hit that right sweet spot when things align in front of you and you go, do you know what? Yes, that really fits, because as well as being able to see how we can bring it to life from a marketing campaign point of view, the brand is so much more than that. The brand is how we show up. Our brand is our business. So what we don't want to do is to get to a place of having a brand platform that you go, that doesn't fit. You want to be in a place where everything that you then work through and all the people that you work with across the business, it feels right because it is right. So even things like when we were then working with our people team on, what's the experience that people have when it comes to working at Leeds Building Society, our colleague value proposition, that again is all about aligning to the brand. And it's all about, it's better to belong at Leeds Building Society as a colleague point of view because of X, Y, Z. So it's been, I'm really passionate about it. I'm passionate with all brands that they absolutely are true to the business that you are.
Authentic.
Yes. Authenticity is so important. And I think that from a personal point of view as well. I spent too long at Asda not being authentic. I spent too long trying to be the person that I thought I needed to be because all I was focused on was, how do you progress in your career? And I think my big learning coming out of Asda was, do you know what? Just be me. Be authentic.
Was it quite brutal at Asda or something to progress?
Yeah.
Was it? Big corporate, quite challenging?
Big corporate.
Interesting.
Programs, things called stepping stones.
I had an interview at head office once and it was pretty brutal, to be fair.
Yeah.
I learned quite a lot in it, though, from the interview. It's one of the most brutal interviews I've ever done. And afterwards, I made sure I was always as prepared as I could be.
Yeah. It was always grades and how do you prove yourself to get to the next grade? And it was that kind of... Yeah, I was always like thinking, right, okay, so I want to get from a C8 to a C10. I want to get, from a C10 to a B.
Right.
And so it was always that. And I think I was...
grades, right?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And levels. So you'd go from like being a team leader to a manager to a senior manager. Yeah. It's all that. Yeah. And I think, my big learning was, and it goes back to authenticity, I wasn't being true to myself. I was always trying to think, right, what would be the expectations of me as a B? And trying to be that B. Yeah. Whereas, the big thing now with my team is, do you know what? Just be who you are. Be the best that you can be, but be you. Yeah. Be authentic. I think people who try too hard to prove themselves can spend too long focusing on that bit and not focusing on just doing a great job. And if you do a great job, you really shine through.
How many people you got in your team then?
So I have 58.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot of responsibility right there.
Yeah. I love the team side. I think the team side, we were talking earlier, I think before we started this, about offices and sitting with the team and I want to be with the team. There's so much value.
But you're the boss. You're the boss of 58 people.
But do you know what? It doesn't matter. Because I just think if you're not accessible, if you're not authentic, gone are the days, I think, where it's like that whole, I am the boss.
Yeah.
I tell you what to do.
Yeah. You're wrong. Nobody tells, I don't tell anyone what to do.
No.
Tell me what to do half the time.
No. And I think that's what's really important.
Even my kids do.
Mike, yeah. God, yeah. Okay. Talk about kids all day. I think, it's...
Do you share your office then? The office that, because you referenced when before we started speaking that, because we said you had your own office, and I said, do you have your name on the door? Because I thought the big corporate building, that'd be quite. Do you share your office, or is it just your own office? And do you have a leather sofa?
So I don't have my name on the door.
Okay. People
know it's my office because I'm so proud of the work that we do and the team have done that I have got all over my walls visuals of the marketing stuff. I don't want a white box. I don't have a leather sofa. I share my office. I only use my office if I need quiet time. But I am the one that will distract the team. It's not the team that will distract me.
Sounds familiar.
I was going to say, see what I mean? No, no comment.
Well, when I first got there, because we all just hot desk.
Yeah.
Okay. So people just sit wherever.
That's good.
And I love that. But I did say to the team, what would be really helpful is because I don't have a locker, so I have a drawers.
Okay.
And my drawers are in my office. So I said, what would be really helpful is if there is a desk that I can sit at when I'm, because I want to sit with the team. And they said to me, but we're a bit worried that we might be a bit noisy. We might distract you. And that's when I said to them, do you know what? It's going to be the other way around because I just see the value in being in the office is not about sitting in an office away from the team. It's about the conversation.
Yeah.
It's about hearing what's going on.
Yeah.
I would hope that my team know that actually don't stop having the conversations when I'm around. You know, even if you're talking about Emmerdale, you know, keep talking about it.
Yeah.
Because
this
whole
is the
thing.
most Yorkshire podcast
But it's like, and it goes back to when I was at Asda, one of the best bosses I've ever had, a guy called Simon Isles, who is now, he's at Betty's.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. He's the MD of Betty's.
Okay.
We used to go in the morning because at Asda, if you didn't park by 7:15, no chance of getting a parking space. Wow. So we were in really early, and there'd often just be me and him. We'd be working away, and he'd say, "Did you watch Emmerdale last night?" And I'd say, "Oh my God, yeah, it was really good." I don't watch it as much now because I just haven't got the time. No. But it's stuff like that I think is really important. Mm-hmm. You're at work too long to not enjoy what you do. Mm. So, yeah, obviously, you know, we work really, really hard, but you've got to have fun. You've got to have fun. You've got to have banter. So, absolutely, I don't want to be sat in an office. I want to be sat with the team and hearing about what's going on. You know, marketing is all about, you know, what have you seen? Yeah. What's going on out there? So, stuff like that, and the team, you know, it's so important. And just getting to know the team. Yeah, they do a phenomenal job. I'm really lucky. The team at Leeds are fantastic.
Across the 3 sort of big career moments that you've had at those companies, there's a lot of similarities in terms of community and how you've worked. But what would you say were the biggest differences between the industries and the biggest challenges as you've moved across?
I think the biggest difference has been moving into financial services because it's regulated, and that is.
That's why I can't get my bloody emails to you.
Yeah, I know.
I have to reply to an email that you've replied, so that they know that you've replied to it for some reason.
It's really weird.
I think it's because financial services is a lot more secure on email. I don't know. Or maybe you've just blocked me. I don't know.
No, came through this morning. It's random though, isn't it? Weird, it's like one comes and then not another.
Not another one.
So I think moving from retail to hospitality wasn't such a change. If anything, hospitality is the other way. So you sort of go, and because it was corporate to family owned, there were things that I'd go, oh, you know what, we don't do this. So things that then, I mean, during COVID in hospitality was so interesting and such a learning, because I unfortunately had to furlough my whole team because we had to close down. And a family-owned business, you know, it was about how do we absolutely protect a business that's been going since 1807 through the worst moment in their history. So I furloughed my whole team. So that was really interesting.
Cry when you furloughed them? Because it was a problem, that, wasn't it? Furloughing was horrible.
Well, I didn't even know what furlough meant.
No,
nobody did.
It was just scary, wasn't it? Because no one did know. It was I got losing my job, am I not?
I got people being mad with me for being furloughed, and I got people being mad with me for keeping them working. You couldn't win.
Yeah, because the weather was so nice. Yeah. People on furlough were like, this is brilliant.
This is the dream, I'm getting paid.
Yeah,
I loved it.
But it was, it was so strange. But I ended up going from, leading a team to... It was me, and I was editing websites. I mean, I had a great time. I was editing websites. I was doing CRM. You know, I learned so much, and that was so interesting. But I think going back to your question, there wasn't too much change going from retail to hospitality, because at the end of the day, we were selling a product and nice products. Whereas going from hospitality to finance, whoa. I mean, and trying to understand the regulatory side was probably one of the biggest changes for me. And there's so much that I've still got to learn. But I think that because we can't just go out there. So in hospitality, we could say, right, I mean, I did one of my career highlights was creating a pop-up pub at the Great Yorkshire Show. So we built the Lister Arms at the Great Yorkshire Show. And that was amazing. And it's like, I sort of scared the team because woke up with this idea one morning, and that idea came to fruition. And it was just unbelievable when we did it. Going into financial services, I can't wake up with an idea and go, let's do this. Because we can't, because we're regulated. So that's the biggest thing in terms of how do you make sure that what you're doing is relevant to your member and your customer, how do you do it in a way that's really engaging? But you've got to be really mindful that we've got to make sure that we are in line with our regulators at all times. So I think that was the thing that was the biggest thing that I found is quite a change and a challenge, I suppose, because being in marketing, you want to, I want to go and do all sorts of things, but I also want to stay out of prison.
Yeah, true.
So is it, I guess, in your role now, is it a lot more challenging to kind of, I suppose trust is such a big, like trust from your customer base is such a big part of what you do. Is it difficult to measure that compared to how you could kind of measure success previously?
I think, do you know what? It sounds like it should be, but it's probably easier because of the regulated side.
Right.
So because we have to do things in line with the guidelines, then we know that the things that we put out there are absolutely trustworthy. So it's probably easier in financial services because we have to think in that way. Whereas in other industries, hospitality, you could just do anything. And that could really erode trust because actually if it's not being thought through in the right way and you put something out there that actually then, doesn't necessarily land right, then that could ultimately erode trust. Whereas with financial services, the thing, how we communicate to our members, we've got to do it in a certain way and we've got to do it in a way, and particularly recently, so this consumer duty that's come in that is absolutely all about protecting the public. So it makes it even more important. And because of the topics that we're talking about, we've always got to be so mindful of how we talk about that with our members, because trust can be so easily eroded because it is so sensitive because you're talking about their finances. So if we were to do something wrong, they'd feel it a lot more than they would say if you were to buy something that's gone out of date. Yeah, it's really annoying, but actually it's not such a big thing.
Yeah.
So it's really important. But I think because we've got that regulatory side, but also integrity, we've got to do the right thing because at the end of the day, our members, they own our business because it's a mutual.
It's quite nice to have your members own it though.
Yeah.
I'm aware that we've taken up your time. Thanks for coming on the show. If people want to listen to this, want to get hold of you in any way, shape, or don't try email. How can they get hold of you?
So I have to say, I'm not great on LinkedIn.
Oh, you're not?
No.
You've been all right. I've been all right with you, chatting away to you.
I know, but I'm not. So even though I work in marketing, I'm not brilliant myself on social.
That's 'cause you're busy.
I know, but I always feel really conscious of that. But LinkedIn, so when I say I'm not great, I'm not one who's out there posting and all of that.
Yeah.
But actually, from a message point of view, it might take me a little while, but I will always come back to people. So yeah, LinkedIn, email isn't great because obviously you see emails don't tend to get through. But yeah, LinkedIn, contact me on LinkedIn.
No, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for coming in and telling us all about, because you're literally the building next door. So we always said
see it.
I can speak to you. Thanks for coming in. And
really interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Nikki, you've been on the show now.
Yes.
If you were us, who would you get on this show that's for marketing people? Who would you invite on this show if you were me, basically?
Simon Isles.
Simon Isles from Betty's.
Yes.
Oh, it's in Harrogate. That's not far from me.
Yeah. So Simon, because he used to be, so when I worked for him at Asda, he was looking after all the own brand. Then he moved to Taylors of Harrogate to be marketing director. So his background is marketing. He's now MD of Betty's, but he's just, fantastic.
Interesting.
Another Leeds themed podcast then.
Yeah, I like it though. So, local, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was McCain before that, Scarborough based.
Oh yeah, Chips, the Oven Chip Stadium, or whatever it's called.
So he went from
a football stadium. It's all sponsored for the McCain.
So, he went from oven chips to Asda to coffee to cake. Nice. He's the king of cake.
The king of cake.